About old age. The age of man is a great gift of heaven, which he does not know the value of. He is terrified, being aware of the inevitability of old age, but, on the contrary, should be grateful for it to the great power that created him. If there were no old age, people would not understand that they should die. The body cannot be immortal, and so its decrepitude should limit its opportunities. So desires recede, and weariness of life appears. It is the way it is to make death a desirable thing. The Lord has inserted in us this understanding of the mechanism of life. But has everybody heard him? Old age is a wise and generous gift, but people have rejected to accept old age as a gift of heaven and make every effort to cling to the youth which is fading away. Youth is an insecure foundation of life. It vibrates because of the desires which require satisfaction, of the insatiable lust to learn about the world, of the great life powers coming from the maturing body. And old age is what grows within the soul as a flower. It blooms only once, and we can make it beautiful. People are touched by the view when looking to the east in the morning. The sun rises, illuminating the horizon and dispelling the darkness. And when the sun sets, the sky is aglow with such colors and such amazing shades of color that it takes the breath away. Human life should be like this. Its dawn is tender and brings hope, and its sunset amazes people with its incredible glow. The time will come soon for old people to return to heaven. Let them be able to rid themselves of excess burden, leave their earthly thoughts behind, manage to forget hatred and their petty worries, become full of pure love and grateful kindness. These are the radiant features which make people as light as air, and only they, and nothing else, will carry them to eternal heaven. Dark properties of the soul make a man so clumsy that his ascension is painful and his forfeit is high. Many unimportant things must leave the soul prior to its reaching the final stage of maturity, so that only the fruits of life and reflections of sudden insights that have amazed the soul and brought it to wisdom are left. These are the fruits that the Lord expects from us. Here is a parable about it. An old man was sitting near the stove and thought, "What a long winter! It will never end." The Lord whispered to him, "Old man, winter always comes to an end. It has no choice. After it, the spring will come to you and bring both flowers and the chirping of birds." "God, what spring are you talking about?" the old man asked. "It's time for me to die. I will not last till spring." "I am talking about the duration of your old age, after which you will move into eternal bliss. You have deserved it, with your difficult but honest life, in which you have relied on my wisdom. This will be the spring, the eternal spring, for your tortured soul." The moral of the parable is that the duration of the old age of a good person is God's intent. At last, He gives a chance to a person to get very tired of life. resting the soul in eternal life, is as beautiful as the spring. We understand life in a wrong way. It seems to us that in the middle of it, when our forces are raging and we have almost definitively chosen the path to follow, we have reached the best stage of life. But it is not true. By the end of life, we turn into what we have become during our lifetime. We are not talking about very old people who have experienced many trials in life and have not died at the right moment and are still barely alive, but a sad sign that departure should come at the right time. Hail old age, that is the stage of life I am talking about. There is not so much physical strength, but the soul is open to the world and the mind is clear. Such old age should result in reflection and calm acceptance of the coming transition to otherness. But it happens differently in the human world. Death is too frightening for most people, almost for everyone, except those who exercise the religions according to which the world continues to exist after death. There is no need to be afraid of death, but one needs to call for it in order to leave at the right time, instead of being abandoned like a forgotten coat or something else. To call for it does not mean to hasten it, but to make it clear to the soul that you understand its importance as a great transformation of yourself. That is the way. While thinking of death constantly, you will do only those things which will not allow you to leave earth like mindless creatures. By keeping death in mind, you will experience such an old age which will prepare you for the transition to the other world. Old age is a bridge connecting one world to another one, which you should cross firmly and with a smile. That is why you were given old age. Try to fill it with an extraordinary light, with awareness that you have received old age as a reward, not punishment. An onion told an apple, "People eat me little by little, and you will be eaten at once, so your destiny is sad." Not at all, the apple disagreed. People wrote about me in the Bible and did not mention you there. I am a symbol of love and knowledge, and you are a symbol of bitter tears. So what? The onion said. But I live longer than you do. It is better to be a beautiful symbol than to have a long life in this world, the apple answered, because that gives you long life in eternity. The moral of the parable is that a man does not need a long life. It is more important what kind of memory he will leave behind him. His long life is in this memory, which is beyond his life on earth. The need of people for a long life is based on their ignorance, as they do not know anything about the invisible world and the soul's existence in it. If they realize that the task of a person is to fulfill his individual mission on earth and to pass into a new living space, they will not be afraid to end their earthly existence. But how can people who realize that their task is completed come to the Lord? Pray for a timely departure, and your call will be heard. Here is a parable about it. A man was thinking about death. He was seriously ill, and his days seemed to be numbered. He was preparing to appear before the court of heaven, but suddenly recovered as his relatives prayed for him. The man was not happy about that, as he felt tired of life and realized that it was time for him to go to heaven. His relatives managed to understand him and asked forgiveness. "We did it in mercy to your sufferings, but did not know that we had foredoomed you to even greater sufferings. Forgive our foolishness." The moral of the parable is that a prayer can work wonders and prevent a person from dying. But what for? If one is ready to go to eternity, do not stop and keep one on earth. A life retained will not make the soul happy when it has been dreaming of meeting its Creator, and you have suddenly deprived it of this great joy. Why do people who are tired of living and have fulfilled their missions sometimes live long lives? That is because someone still needs them on earth, and if that someone is close to heaven, and the passing of that tired man is a tragedy for him, the powers of light prolong the life of that man. He has to live for the sake of the one who needs him. But he will be rewarded by the Lord for those agonizing years, as the labor of life for the sake of someone's calm is a sacrifice for the sake of the light of the universe. A man was dying of a serious disease and knew that, but kept silent. And when he once mentioned that he knew everything, his relatives asked him in amazement, "How did you realize that?" "Healthy desires have left me," the dying man smiled. The moral of the parable is that the extinction of a life force can be determined easily. It does not strive for healthy desires of the flesh anymore. But what about the soul? On the contrary, the fewer desires of the flesh one has, the brighter should his soul become, and the more obvious should its aspiration to the Lord's light be. If this does not happen, one is doomed to a slow death instead of the revival to a new being. Hence, old age will not be terror, but joy for the one who sees it as a necessary condition for the transition to eternal youth. Old age is the autumn of life. Constant summer is impossible. Autumn and winter come as the icy breath of eternity. But who perceives eternity as a holiday? Autumn and winter frighten us, but they are the best that is given to us. Old age and the last rays of life are good for the soul. Old age and our last days assign us the task to go over the time we have lived on earth. Consideration of life is the most important work in its last days. This is part of the wise plan of the Lord, for man has no more strength for lively activities, but the soul is quite capable of doing some important work. Man should consider his life by asking himself the following questions. What was the main thing in it? What has been useful to the universe? And have I managed to do everything to meet the expectations of the Lord? If the latter causes your soul to feel bitter regret, you still have time to change something. If you start to reflect on the issue early enough. The earlier you do it, the more you will manage. Heaven knows how to listen to those who ask themselves these questions, and lends those helping rays of good. People who do not set themselves the task to extend the existence of the universe, but try to live a life filled with the pleasures of the flesh, should not expect eternity to direct the rays of good towards them. For heavenly joy is reachable only for those who seek to sublimate their spirit, rather than to satisfy their bodies. Autumn and winter are very important for the soul. And why are people so afraid of old age? If everything in life, or almost everything, has been done in accordance with the rule of harmonious peace, such a person has something to thank himself for when he becomes old. He has heard his soul, and that means he has heard the Lord. A young girl asked an old woman, "How did you manage to live your life without offending others and not being offended yourself?" The old woman replied, "At first, I could not find an explanation for this. But now, on the threshold of death, I can say this: it was the Lord who did not allow me to satisfy evil with my spiritual impulses." "How did you manage to understand it?" The maiden was surprised. And the old woman answered, "I started to see clearly that there is no sin in me when death approached, and I am not afraid to die, and I rejoice. Who, if not the Lord, deprives the soul of fear and fills it with jubilancy?" The moral of the parable is that the last days, the last moments of human life, tell the surrounding people with what kind of heart one goes to eternity. A sinner is afraid, and a righteous man experiences delight and jubilation. Those who die regretting how little they have managed in the world, but calmly, as they simply did not have enough time to do more, are the best children of the Lord. For they have done a lot of good on earth, and not only for their souls. The only blossoming which begins on the verge of man's decay is the blossoming of his spirit. So people should not depend on the flesh, for it is not their peak. It is the spirit, which is the youth of your being. So direct all your strength to the flowering of the spirit. There is no task more important. One needs to prepare for this from one's youth to be able to acquire the ability to harmonize one's life with the will of heaven. We come to earth to serve heaven, and therefore every effort should be made to nurture the spirit within us. What should be done to achieve this? While gazing at the pleasures of life, one should realize that they are given to us as a kind of reflection of the heavenly pleasures, which we shall get in reward for constantly praying to heaven. And this service on earth shall consist of one's good deeds and prayers addressed to the Creator of our earthly pleasures. Understanding that earthly pleasures are given as an advance, not as a reward for something you have already accomplished, should sober you up and lead you to the right path. The rays of heaven are directed to people in the hope of our sincere gratitude and appreciation for all that is happening. There is nothing worse than disappointment, neither on earth nor in heaven. You know how painful it is to be deceived in your hopes. Aspire your souls to the light, and you will not be disappointed. So will be the Lord who is counting on this aspiration. Who is to blame that the years are flashing by? No one is released from the flight of time in earthly life. Think about eternity that lies ahead and what awaits you there. If you are wasting your time on pointless wailing and trying to keep younger when getting older, you are fools. Eternity does not know such petty categories. There is only one measure there: how light-bearing you are. And do not feel sorry to spend your lifetime on achieving it. The older you are, the more light-bearing you should be. This is more important than anything else.